5,000 years, this thing has been staring back at us. Massive, silent, immovable. And for 5,000 years, we've been fed the same story. A pharaoh, a tomb, a workforce of slaves, rope, wood, copper. Simple tools, simple men, a simple explanation. But what if that story, the one carved into every textbook, repeated in every documentary, defended by every tenured professor, what if that story was never actually proven? What if the greatest monument ever built by human hands is also history's greatest unsolved mystery? Because the closer you look at the Great Pyramid of Giza, and I mean really look, the more the official explanation doesn't just weaken, it collapses. And standing at the center of that collapse, guarding the gates, controlling the narrative, and deciding what the world is and is not allowed to know, is one man. Here's what mainstream history tells us. Around 2550 BC, the pharaoh Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops, ordered the construction of a monument so large it would declare his power to the gods themselves. Over the next 2 decades, an estimated 20,000 to 100,000 workers dragged, lifted, and stacked roughly 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, into a perfect geometric form rising 481 feet into the Egyptian sky. No blueprints, no computers, no cranes, just rope, wooden rollers, copper chisels, and determination. It's a compelling story. It's a human story. And it is almost entirely built on assumption. Here's what the historical record actually gives us. There is no inscription from Khufu's era that explicitly states he built the Great Pyramid. None. Not a single line of text carved into its walls. Not one commemorative tablet. Not one royal decree. Consider what that means. The ancient Egyptians documented everything. They recorded harvests, taxes, legal disputes, love poems, medical procedures, and religious hymns on papyrus and stone across thousands of years. They were obsessive record keepers, meticulous, thorough. And yet, for their single greatest architectural achievement, silence. The only royal cartouche linking Khufu to the pyramid was found not carved into the monument itself, but scrawled in red paint deep inside a hidden relieving chamber, a chamber that remained sealed and undiscovered until 1837, when a British explorer named Howard Vyse blasted his way inside with gunpowder. Almost immediately, rival scholars accused Vyse of forging the markings. Whether that's true or not, the troubling question remains: why, of all the things the Egyptians carved, did they never carve this? Let's talk about what's missing. Every royal Egyptian tomb ever discovered, from the Valley of the Kings to the burial chambers of minor nobles, shares certain unmistakable features. Inscriptions glorifying the deceased, painted walls telling the story of their life and their journey into the afterlife, canopic jars holding their preserved organs, treasures, weapons, food, furniture, everything they'd need in the next world. And of course, a body. The Great Pyramid has none of these things. No paintings, No inscriptions, no artifacts, no treasures. And most strikingly of all, no mummy, no remains, nothing. When explorers first entered the king's chamber deep inside the pyramid, they found only a single, lidless, undecorated granite sarcophagus, empty, cracked, and completely devoid of any royal markings. Defenders of the official narrative suggest grave robbers stole everything. But here's the problem with that explanation. Grave robbers steal valuables. They don't strip the walls of paint. They don't erase inscriptions. They don't remove a body so thoroughly that not a single bone fragment remains. And more critically, every other royal tomb in Egypt, even ones that were robbed, still bears the unmistakable signature of its occupant, because the identity was built into the walls. The Great Pyramid's walls are bare stone. So if this wasn't a tomb, what was it? That question has haunted engineers, mathematicians, and independent researchers for decades. And the answers they've uncovered are far more extraordinary than anything mainstream archaeology is willing to acknowledge.
Set aside the mystery of who built the pyramid for a moment. Focus instead on how. The Great Pyramid covers 13 acres of desert. Its base is level to within just 2.1 centimeters across an area the size of 10 football fields. Its four sides align to true north, south, east, and west, with a margin of error of less than 1/20th of a single degree. For context, the Meridian building at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England, built in 1851 with modern surveying equipment, is less precisely aligned to true north than the Great Pyramid.
Built in 1851 with modern tools, less accurate. Let that settle. Inside, the engineering becomes even more bewildering. The King's Chamber is constructed entirely from Aswan granite, one of the hardest natural stones on Earth, transported from a quarry 500 miles to the south. The blocks fit together so precisely that even today, you cannot slide a razor blade into the joints between them. Engineer Christopher Dunn spent years analyzing the granite surfaces inside the pyramid. What he found defied explanation. The drill cores he examined showed perfectly circular boreholes, not the ragged, inconsistent marks left by manual drilling, but machine-smooth spirals indicating a cutting rate through solid granite 500 times faster than what modern industrial diamond-tip drill bits can achieve. He also found flat surfaces with tolerances accurate to within a few thousandths of an inch. Precision that in modern manufacturing would require computer-controlled milling machines. Copper chisels cannot do this. Human hands cannot do this with primitive tools. When modern researchers attempted to replicate even basic pyramid stonework using ancient methods, copper chisels, stone hammers, abrasive sand, the results were humiliating. Their tools wore down almost immediately. After days of continuous effort, they had produced a depression approximately 4 millimeters deep. The King's Chamber granite blocks are each roughly 70 tons and finished on 6 sides to near perfect flatness. At 4 millimeters per day, it would take a single worker over 27,000 years just to finish one block. There are 2.3 million blocks in the pyramid. Something is deeply wrong with the official story. Here is a detail so simple, so overlooked, that when you truly consider it, it stops you cold. internal chambers and passageways of the Great Pyramid stretch for hundreds of meters through solid stone. They are deep. They are narrow. They are completely sealed from natural light. If the builders spent 20 years inside these tunnels, cutting, hauling, positioning, finishing, they needed light. The traditional explanation? Torches, oil lamps, fire.
But here is the problem. Every underground tomb, cave, or enclosed space where ancient people used fire for extended periods bears the same unmistakable evidence. Carbon deposits, soot, smoke stains, darkened ceilings. The residue of combustion is chemically bonded to the stone and essentially permanent. The Lascaux caves in France, used by ancient humans over 17,000 years ago, still show clear soot markings from their fires and torches. The interior of the Great Pyramid? Spotless.
Not a single trace of soot, not one smoke stain, not one carbon deposit anywhere across hundreds of meters of enclosed passages and chambers. Either the pyramid was built and finished without a single flame burning inside, or the builders were using something else entirely to see in the dark. What that something else was, history has not told us. But the stone, silent, clean, undeniable, tells us the torches were never there. His name is Dr. Zahi Hawass. For the better part of 4 decades, he has been the single most powerful figure in Egyptian archaeology. Former Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, former Minister of State for Antiquities Affairs, the man whose signature and whose refusal to sign determined what could be excavated, what could be published, and what would remain hidden beneath the desert forever. Charismatic, telegenic, ferocious in debate, and deeply, persistently opposed to any theory that challenges the official story of ancient Egypt. When independent researchers have pushed for access to unexplored chambers, he has denied them. When geological evidence emerged suggesting the Sphinx was thousands of years older than the accepted timeline, he dismissed the scientists without engaging their data. When a German engineer named Rudolf Gantenbrink used a small robotic camera to discover a sealed limestone door fitted with copper handles at the end of a previously unexplored shaft inside the Queen's chamber, Egyptian authorities, under Hawass's influence, halted the investigation immediately. No explanation, no timeline for resumption. Just stop. The world waited 9 years. In 2002, a team sponsored by National Geographic was finally granted access. They drilled a small hole through Gantenbrink's door. Behind it was another sealed door. That second door has never been opened. In the years since, Hawass has been asked directly about sealed chambers, hidden passages, and the possibility of unexplored spaces beneath the Giza Plateau. His responses have ranged from evasive to openly hostile.
The gate has been closed. When pressed, I closed it, and I am going to close it. Now, there are those who argue Hawass is simply a responsible custodian, that caution protects fragile artifacts from damage, that scientific consensus exists for good reason. That may be partly true, but custodians preserve. They don't bury.
And the pattern here isn't caution, it's a wall. consistent, targeted, personal. Because the discoveries being suppressed aren't fringe theories whispered on obscure internet forums. They are peer-reviewed geological findings, advanced scanning results published in major scientific journals, and engineering analyses performed by credentialed professionals. The question is no longer whether something is being protected. The question is what? In 2017, something happened that the gatekeepers could not prevent. An international team of scientists from Egypt, France, Japan, and Canada launched the Scan Pyramids project, using a technology called muon radiography to peer inside the Great Pyramid without touching a single stone. Muons are subatomic particles produced when cosmic rays strike the Earth's upper atmosphere. They pass through solid matter the way X-rays pass through flesh, but they are slightly absorbed by dense material. By detecting muon patterns on the far side of the pyramid, scientists could map what was inside. What they found shook the archaeological world. Above the Grand Gallery, the pyramid's most dramatic internal corridor, the scans revealed an enormous hidden void, a previously unknown chamber stretching at least 30 meters in length, roughly the size of the Grand Gallery itself, located just above it. This wasn't a crack, it wasn't a construction gap. It was a massive, deliberate, enclosed space, sealed for thousands of years, with no entrance, no known exit, and no explanation in the official record. Scientists called it one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the century. Requests for further investigation were submitted immediately. They were denied. Egyptian authorities cited vague concerns about preservation and structural integrity. A sealed chamber inside solid stone, a chamber the pyramid has protected for 5 millennia, suddenly needed to be shielded from scientists with scanning equipment? No drilling, no excavation, just looking. Denied. The chamber sits there still, sealed, waiting, full of either nothing or everything. Now, we must ask the question that mainstream Egyptology refuses to ask seriously. What if the Great Pyramid wasn't built by Khufu's Egypt at all? What if what we call ancient Egypt inherited something, a monument, a technology, a body of knowledge from a civilization so much older that history has simply forgotten it existed? This isn't a fringe idea anymore. In 1996, geologist Dr. Robert Schoch, a tenured professor at Boston University, published findings that sent shockwaves through academic circles. His analysis of the weathering patterns on the Great Sphinx showed something undeniable. The erosion on the Sphinx's body and the walls of its enclosure was caused not by wind and sand, as Egyptologists claimed, but by heavy rainfall and flowing water. This matters enormously because the Sahara Desert has not experienced significant rainfall since approximately 10,000 to 12,000 BC, the end of the last ice age. If the Sphinx shows water erosion, the geological community sided with Schoch. The Egyptologists' response? Silence, dismissal, ridicule. Not a single credible counter-argument addressing the geological data was produced. The establishment simply chose not to engage. Because if Schoch is right, if the Sphinx predates Khufu by thousands of years, then the entire chronology of human civilization has to be rewritten. And rewriting it means admitting that something existed before recorded history. Something capable of building monuments we still cannot fully explain. Something we've chosen to forget. His name appears in every controversial conversation about ancient history. Graham Hancock, author, researcher, thorn in the side of conventional archaeology. His argument, laid out over decades of investigation across multiple continents, is this. There was once a civilization of extraordinary sophistication, global in reach, advanced in astronomy, mathematics, architecture, and engineering. And it was destroyed, suddenly, catastrophically, somewhere around 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age.
The mechanism, he argues, was a cosmic impact event, a swarm of comet fragments that struck the Earth's northern ice sheet, triggering catastrophic flooding, seismic upheaval, and a global climate collapse that wiped out entire species and erased entire cultures. This event, known among scientists as the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, now has growing support in the peer-reviewed literature. Core samples from multiple continents show a layer of nanodiamonds, iridium, and shocked quartz, hallmarks of cosmic impact, deposited at precisely the same geological boundary 12,800 years ago. Hancock argues that survivors of this catastrophic civilization carried their knowledge forward, encoded it in monuments, myths, and architectural alignments, waiting for a future civilization evolved enough to decode the message. The Great Pyramid, aligned to the cardinal points with uncanny precision. The Sphinx, pointing toward the rising sun at the spring equinox. The pyramid layout matching the precise positions of Orion's belt circa 10,500 BC. These aren't coincidences. They are coordinates, left by someone who knew we would one day have the tools to read them. The question is whether we have the courage to look. Before we close, there is one more place you need to know about. 40 kilometers south of the Great Pyramid, beneath the desert at Saqqara, lies an underground complex called the SERAPEUM. Inside, arranged in a long subterranean gallery, are 24 massive granite boxes. Each one weighs approximately 100 tons, box and lid combined. The lids alone weigh 30 tons each. They are made of Aswan rose granite, one of the hardest natural stones on Earth. And they are machined to tolerances that would be impressive in a modern factory. The inner surfaces of these boxes are flat to within a fraction of a millimeter. The corners are square to within the same tolerance, maintained consistently across granite surfaces measuring 3 meters by 2 meters. To achieve this today, you would need precision granite surface plates, dial indicators, and computer numerical control equipment. The ancient Egyptians are said to have made these with copper chisels and abrasive sand. Mainstream archaeology offers no convincing explanation for how this was done. It offers instead a confident shrug and moves on. But the boxes remain cold, perfect, inexplicable, waiting for someone to finally ask the right question. So here is where we stand. A monument of impossible precision, built from materials transported across impossible distances, finished with impossible accuracy, illuminated by an impossible light source, and attributed, without definitive proof, to a civilization that left no record of building it. Hidden chambers sealed behind limestone doors no one is allowed to open. A colossal void inside the pyramid that no one is allowed to explore. Geological evidence of a structure thousands of years older than history accepts. And one man, one powerful, well-connected man, who spent decades making sure the questions stayed buried. Why? That is the question history keeps refusing to answer. Maybe the official story is true, and all of this is coincidence and misinterpretation. Maybe the pyramid was exactly what we've been told: a tomb, a monument, a tribute to a pharaoh's vanity. But maybe, just maybe, beneath the desert of Giza, behind sealed limestone doors, inside an unopened void 30 meters long, something is waiting. Something that was deliberately hidden. Something that would not just change what we know about ancient Egypt, but everything we believe about who we are, where we came from, and how long this strange human story has actually been going on. The stone is patient. It has waited 5,000 years. It can wait a little longer. If this video made you question what you thought you knew, you're not alone. Subscribe and stay with us. We're only